What's going on, guys? This is James Allen. I am recording this on Thursday, November 6th, 2025. And in this video, I want to share with you my thoughts on Sui as a Web3 developer. This video came in as a request from someone named Louis Tozen. Louis is a person I happen to personally know. He's been a close friend of mine for a few decades. So shout out to you out there, Louis. And when I went and looked at the docs for Sui, I was rather shocked because it turns out that Sui might be exactly what I need for the smart contract layer of Cityscape. Initially, I had thought Cityscape was going to be entirely on internet computer. For those of you who don't know, Cityscape is a Web3 social network. I have already shipped out in a real world with real players, and I'm currently in a process of building a base before I expand. And in any case, because there is a cryptocurrency element of Cityscape and there's a NFT component of Cityscape and digital ID, it has to be a blockchain project. And initially, I thought Cityscape was going to end up on internet computer. I was going to put everything entirely on chain. That ended up being a complete disaster. Someone led me to Kaspa. That person's name is Stefan. Shout out to you, Stefan. When I read Kaspa's white paper, I realized this would be perfect to deploy Cityscape's in-app currency, Street Cred, but Kaspa doesn't support any smart contract capabilities, not natively at least, right? I know vprogs are coming out, but who knows when will this be released? So I can't really put the heavy smart contract layer Cityscape has on Kaspa, but Kaspa would be great for Street Cred. So I was looking at Polygon for some time, but when I stumbled upon Sui's documentation, it turns out this might be exactly what I need for Cityscape. And those of you who are interested, stick around in the video. I'm going to tell you why Sui might be the perfect smart contract layer for Cityscape, because Cityscape might end up being a multi-chain project where I use Kaspa as the cash layer for Street Cred, Sui as a smart contract layer for the metaverse, and maybe later use Polygon for DeFi liquidity extension, right? But right now, it looks like Sui's going to get the smart contract job, although there are some red flags, which I will get into later in the episode, so stick around for the whole thing. Let's start at the beginning. Right now, there's a lot of hype around Sui, which is really odd, right? Because most blockchain have no cultural momentum behind them. Look at Internet Computer. Internet Computer has no cultural momentum behind it. But Sui, which launched their mainnet on May 3rd, 2023, I believe, already have a lot of cultural momentum. There's a lot of talk about Sui. What's all this hype about, right? You guys know me. I'm not really a person that's into hype. So when I did some digging, I found out that the hype turned out to be worth it indeed. And the hype around Sui is about two things. The first one is their community-driven NFTs. And the second one is their object-oriented design approach towards the blockchain. These two things are features that no other blockchain really offer. Let's get into the first one, the community-driven NFTs. In Sui, NFTs are like digital assets that evolve over time as users interact with them. Again, as users interact with these NFTs, they are able to evolve over time. So NFTs are more like game objects than static images on Sui, which is why a lot of people are excited about it. And the second thing, their object-oriented approach towards the blockchain is they're taking an entirely new approach on storage, towards on-chain storage. If you read their docs, you will see that they say on Sui, the basic unit of storage is the object. And I don't know any other blockchain that does that, right? I know most blockchains are either UTXO or the account model, but on Sui, everything is treated as an object. In fact, every transaction either modifies an object or creates an object, right? And they even said like their smart contract is also an object, right? Which they call a move package. And what that enables you, because everything on the Sui blockchain is an object, what that enables you is it allows you to have a more complex game setting within the blockchain world. Perfect for building metaverses, which makes sense because if you look at the people behind Sui, I believe the organization is called Mistin Labs, and the two main guys are Evan Cheng I think he was former director of R&D at Meta, right? And Sam Blackshear, which is their CTO of Mistin Labs. And he was also an ex-Meta engineer. So when you look at the background of the team, they're from Facebook, aka Meta. And if you remember Zuckerberg, he was big on the whole metaverse thing. So it makes sense that two former Meta engineer left Facebook or Meta, or however you want to call it, and created a Sui blockchain. And when you study the Sui blockchain, because of its object-oriented approach, everything on chain is an object with IDs and metadata and properties that can evolve, and of course state. It allows a greater creative freedom for developers like myself. You have to look at these blockchains like canvases, right? Each canvas allowing you to do different things. Well, Sui is the blockchain canvas that allows you much more creative freedom than other blockchains like Cardano or Ethereum, or Bitcoin, or, you get the rest, Solana. Much more creative freedom there. And that's important, right? Because for a developer like myself with an app, a social network like Cityscape, which turns the city into a living metaverse, Sui is the only blockchain that allows the rich smart contract layer for me to do what I do. Now, before I go into the details as to why Sui is the blockchain for Cityscape, I want to say that Mistin Lab, if I believe, Mistin Lab raised about 300 million in their Series B, and analysts suggest that their total fund raise is about 337 million, which I recall. 337 million. That's a lot of money. Just to give you some reference, that's double what Internet Computer raised. Internet Computer Definity raised 167 million. Mistin Lab, the organization behind Sui, raised 337 million. That's more than double, right? So what I'm trying to say is that Mistin Labs is not going anywhere. Sui's not going anywhere. There's some serious staying power behind this blockchain just on a sheer amount of money they raised. So any one of you considering investing in Sui should look at that as a positive. Now, let's get into the juice of the story. Why is Sui the perfect smart contract layer for Cityscape? And for me to answer this question, I have to briefly walk you through the Cityscape game, right? Remember, Cityscape is an urban exploring app. It's an urban exploring social network where people do missions scattered across cultural landmarks around the city. And the mission is simple: find a hidden Cityscape sticker at some location somewhere. And usually these locations are cultural landmarks, but as Cityscape grows, there will be different kind of missions, I'm certain. But when the user go and does a mission, right? They find the sticker, they scan it. Cityscape gives them an artifact, right? And that artifact is an NFT. That NFT is usually an image that is rooted in the history and culture of the city. So this is a way for people to urban explore and learn their city's history and culture hands-on in a fun way, right? But remember, that NFT in the Cityscape world, at least, is much more than just a cultural artifact. It actually does two things. The first one, it gives the user street cred within a certain community. So far, so good. The second thing it does is more important in relation to Sui, however. That is, when you claim an artifact, it connects you to every other player who's claimed that same artifact, right? So let's just say you're the 50th person to claim this artifact. Well, guess what? Now that you've claimed it, you're immediately connected to all the other 49 people who claimed it before you and the people who will claim it after you. So you have to see these artifacts as nodes that links every Cityscape player who's claimed it together in a social network. Again, see the artifact as a node that links every player who's claimed it with one another in a social web. So Cityscape is an app where people actively build their social networks by doing missions. And when they claim that artifact connects them to everyone who's completed that mission before and after them. That's very important, right? Because this artifact NFT, because it has that property, it gives the player new powers that is constantly evolving. The smart contract layer that I needs to treat these NFTs more as objects than as static images with some certificate of ownership on a blockchain somewhere. It needs to be much more than what other blockchains are offering me. And Sui is the blockchain that's perfect for that. And there's an added element to this. That is, let's just say an artifact connects you to 150 players. Let's just say the 151st player who claims that same artifact is Brad Pitt. Now, guess what? The social network is much more valuable now. That social network, that artifact social network is much more valuable now. So the resale value of this artifact has just skyrocketed because Brad Pitt is now part of that artifact social network. So I hope you see that these artifacts are not just evolving in terms of what player they link you to, even its value evolve as the social network dynamic changes. And again, Sui is the only blockchain that mirrors that, where it's a blockchain of evolving objects, which is perfectly what I need for Cityscape. I can't get that anywhere else. Now, there are some red flags, unfortunately. There are some red flags. And before I get into the red flags, I also want to add that Sui, in terms of capacity, network capacity, can handle a user-intensive application like Cityscape. I think their theoretical max for TPS was 120,000 transactions per second, but really their daily average, their more realistic daily average is more like 3,000 to 4,000 transactions per second. So Sui has the bandwidth too. I just wanted to add that before I get into the red flag. Now, let's get into where my heart shattered, right? Let's get into where my heart just took a blow, right? I looked into how to become a validator for Sui, right? Because that's one thing I want to know, right? In fact, I want to start my own Kaspa node, because if I want to deploy a token on Kaspa, I kind of need my own node. So let me know if you guys want to fund me for that. But I looked into like how to become a validator for Sui. And it looks like I think you need 30 million Suis in your stake pool to become a validator. You need 30 million Suis in your pool to become a validator. And if you look at the Sui market price, last I looked, it was around $2. That's $60 million, guys. $60 million, right? And to stay a validator, I think you need to maintain at least 20 million Sui. So what this is basically telling you is that this is only the rich could play, right? Only the rich could become a node validator on Sui. So you're witnessing the emergence of a validator cartel. This is a validator cartel to me, and I'm really not with that. That's a giant red flag. Like, why would I want to deal with a validator cartel? Like, you guys know me. I'm from the world of internet computer. I've already seen how tyrannical a blockchain can get. Why would I want to relive that experience, right? So that is the major red flag for me for Sui. I don't know why they did that. So anyone in the Sui community, please let me know, why is it so steep to become a network validator? I did look into the future vision that they have. They do want to reduce it to, I believe, 2.2 million Sui, but that's still unaffordable to like most people, right? It's a lot better than 30 million Sui. 2.2 is a lot better than that, but still, this is a validator cartel. This introduces centralization, in my opinion, and blockchain is supposed to be about freedom, trustless, and permissionless. Like, if you need 30 million Sui, like that's not permissionless. Like, come on, you need rich people behind you. So that is my major call with the blockchain so far, but everything else seems really good. The next step for me is to test the developer on-ramp of Sui. How quickly is it for me to prototype something on a chain? I think if I do that, it will tell me much more than any lecture I could watch about the blockchain. If it's quick for me to prototype something using the Move language, then it's all good. But so far, so good. Very impressed with the technology. I think it has a bright future, but the validator cartel for me is just not worth it. So we'll see how it turns out. In any case, my misfits, that's all I have for you in this episode. You know what to do. Don't forget to press that like button and support me on Patreon. I will see you next time.